Hi, I'm Angga Arifka. In this video, we will explore some Muslim philosophers' view of imagination. Those philosophers are Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali. If you like what I do, please like, share my videos, and subscribe this small channel. You can also help me out monetarily, be it PayPal or Patreon. Al-Kindi explores the concept of imagination when discussing the faculties of the soul. According to him, the soul possesses three types of faculties. First, sensory faculties. Second, intermediate faculties encompassing memory, sexual desire and aggression, nutrition and growth, as well as imaginative faculty. And third, intellectual faculties. The sensory faculties enable the perception of sensory objects in their material form. Al-Kindi regards the external senses as secondary instruments that are unreliable. He refers to them as secondary because these organs do not consistently maintain the same condition while perceiving an object. The sense can be affected by illness, aging, or variations in the intensity of light. Apart from sensory faculties, there exist intermediate faculties such as the faculty of memory. This faculty is responsible for storing the forms of objects derived from sensory perception. The soul also possesses emotional, sexual, nutritive, and growth faculties. The latter two functions, nutritive and growth faculties, are referred to by Al-Kindi as parts of the vegetative soul. The most significant aspect of other intermediate faculties is the ability to represent something known as the imaginative faculty. This faculty allows us to perceive particular forms that can be separated from all objects or represent particular objects concealed within their perceptible qualities. It has the capacity to combine sensory forms both in wakefulness and during dreaming in sleep. This ability deals with universal forms through symbolic or metaphorical imagery, which is unlike reason, which operates with universal forms in the realm of ideas. The imaginative faculty differs from sensory faculty in several ways. Firstly, it perceives objects as forms rather than their material composition. Secondly, it can perceive an object through the primary sensory organ, which is the mind, in contrast to sensory faculty that relies on the five senses as secondary and unreliable organs. Thirdly, the imaginative faculty offers greater certainty compared to sensory faculties as it is unrestricted by material constraints and weak senses. Therefore, it is more active and expansive compared to the passive, receptive, and limited nature of sensory faculty. However, not everyone can fully actualize this imaginative faculty. In a state of wakefulness, it primarily serves as a mediator between the senses and reason, functioning passively. Only in sleep does the imaginative faculty manifest itself, maximizing its ability and clarity. This condition applies primarily to ordinary individuals, as elite individuals such as saints, philosophers, and prophets maintain an active imagination even while awake, unhindered by their senses and reason. The most essential function of imagination is its relationship with vision. Vision represents the impressions produced by the imaginative faculty in the form of object forms. Al-Kindi suggests that the ability of the imaginative faculty to perceive the reality of a vision is influenced by two conditions of a person's soul. Firstly, a prepared state of the soul, where an individual is ready to perceive forms accurately, enabling them to see the true nature of an object or event. This prepared state requires purification of the soul, free from any disturbances that could hinder the reception of vision. Secondly, a less prepared state of the soul where imagination receives and depicts objects symbolically. Consequently, the perceived reality is reduced to symbols that require interpretation to comprehend their meaning. Al-Farabi provides an explanation of imagination as a faculty situated between the senses and reason. It serves various faculties including the senses, reason, emotions, and others. When the faculties of the senses, reason, and emotions cease during sleep, the imaginative faculty no longer serves those functions and becomes active, focusing on the stored sensory sketches within it. Imagination has three main functions: arranging and separating sensory sketches, imitating sensory and rational things, desires, nutrition, and other faculties. According to Al-Farabi, imagination is capable of receiving rational things by imitating them from sensory entities that shape its structure. Sometimes it receives sensory perceptions as imagined or imitated through other sensory experiences. The imitation of rational things through sensory entities takes place through symbols that replace or represent those things. To comprehend the received symbols, interpretation is required. If someone possesses a strong imagination that is not preoccupied with sensory concerns or serving rational faculties, they can envision everything provided by the active intellect through the imitation of sensory and visible entities. From this depicted imagination, they create sensory sketches that reflect the depth of their sensory perception, enabling them to see and express them in sensory forms. Al-Farabi distinguishes variations in imagination among individuals based on the preparedness of their imaginative faculty to receive input from the active intellect. Some receive during sleep, others during dreams, and some through individual imaginative processes. Similarly, the received objects vary. Some only receive partial aspects and do not grasp rational things, while others receive rational things but not partial aspects. The preparedness to receive imagination from the active intellect also depends on the state of a person's soul. If someone's soul is unhealthy, the received imagination becomes corrupted. Conversely, if their soul is pure and untainted, the received imagination from the active intellect becomes transparent. The differentiation leads Al-Farabi to distinguish between revelation and hallucination. Revelation is something bestowed by the imaginative faculty from the active intellect, imitating actual perceptible things. In contrast, hallucination involves the illusion of various things that do not truly exist and do not serve as an imitation of actual things. Ibn Sina identifies three faculties similar to imagination: the perceptive faculty, the imaginative faculty, and the estimative faculty. Failing to distinguish them clearly leads to nearly the same understanding. The perceptive faculty stores images from collective sensory perception and those created by the imaginative faculty. It acts as a receptacle and keeper for images from both faculties, providing necessary images for further processing. The imaginative faculty actively engages with sensory images provided by the perceptive faculty. It processes these images by recalling, organizing, and separating them based on rational requirements. Imagination plays a crucial role in the thinking process, working with stored images and specific meanings to derive universal meanings. This faculty, associated with thinking processes and universal meanings, exists only in humans. Animals possess the faculty of imagination, but it is limited to sensory imagination without involving rational aspects. According to Ibn Sina, reason relies not only on imagination for particular images, but also on the active intellect to obtain abstract and universal rational conclusions. Ibn Sina concurs with Al-Farabi on the significant role of imagination in dreams. When imagination is liberated from external sensory perceptions and no longer serves reason, it becomes active and focuses on its own tasks. It receives images originating from conception and presents them within the realm of imagination. Some images have a strong impact, manifesting in collective perception, and the dreamer perceives them as real and external. Besides conception, Ibn Sina and Al-Farabi mention that some dreams result from sensory influences on the sleeping individual, either internally or externally. The estimative faculty perceives non-sensory meanings related to sensory sensations. It takes various forms, including inspiration from God, such as the instinct of a baby seeking its mother's breast, or reflexive action of reaching out when about to fall. This type of inspiration is termed instinctual. Animals also possess this instinctual faculty, prompting their instinctive response to imminent danger. Ibn Sina interprets instinct as a collection of inspirations originating from divine bestowal. However, in terms of knowledge, the estimative faculty cannot serve as a general criterion since it lacks rational justification. Hope, daydreaming, fear, despair, and personal imaginative aspects do not require rationalization, as they follow their own non-rational laws and their truth is personal. The estimative faculty plays a significant role in the lives of both animals and humans, especially animals, as their behavior is heavily influenced by it. Humans, in contrast, possess intellectual faculty that assesses their actions as good, bad, logical, or illogical. When determining a response, the estimative faculty utilizes the imaginative faculty. However, the imagination involved is not connected to rational reasoning. Instead, it represents a swift response to opposing events. For instance, a young child who has experienced an electric shock quickly imagines avoiding cables and establishes in their imagination that cables are associated with electric shocks and should be avoided. This type of instinctual response is natural for animals. If humans rely on this type of estimative faculty without employing their rational reasoning in matters of knowledge, their actions will be misguided and chaotic. Al-Ghazali provides an explanation of imagination in relation to the faculty of inner perception. He categorizes the faculty of inner perception into four distinct parts: the faculty to perceive images, the faculty to perceive meanings, the faculty that serves as storage facility for both images and meanings, and common sense. Common sense acts as a gathering place for sensory objects, functioning as a container for various sensory perceptions that enter the mind. However, common sense only perceives specific sensory objects and not universal ones. Once the sensory perceptions are collected by the common sense, they undergo further processing by other sensory faculties such as the faculty of differentiation, estimative faculty, memory faculty, and imaginative faculty. The faculty of differentiation helps distinguish between different sensory objects and the common sense. The estimative faculty enables the perception of particular meanings from sensory objects without involving rational decision making. It represents an instinctive response in decision making based on past experiences. While the estimative faculty is useful in certain situations, it can lead to errors in knowledge as it lacks the rational aspects found in reason. In contrast, imagination functions as the faculty that organizes, separates, and associates images and meanings. It plays a crucial role in practical and theoretical reasoning by providing images for reasoning to arrange, separate, and connect premises, leading to rational conclusions. Imagination collaborates with practical reason and the estimative faculty to develop skills, expertise, and specific professions. It also collaborates with theoretical reason to generate theories, ideas, and definitions related to morality and other concepts. Al-Ghazali emphasizes the significant role of imagination in assisting humans in acquiring knowledge. The proper functioning of imagination occurs when it is not occupied with serving the senses during both waking and sleeping states. In such instances, imagination, along with the rational soul, is drawn towards the active intellect. Reason observes the content of the active intellect and transmits them to the imaginative faculty, enabling the perception of visible and audible phenomena. However, the level of imaginative faculty and the preparedness of individual souls can vary. Some souls are more prepared than others. The weakness of the soul in grasping meanings or images from the active intellect is attributed to the preoccupation of imagination by the senses. Individuals whose imagination is not preoccupied by the senses is receptive to what comes from the active intellect. Those with a strong imaginative faculty can assist the rational soul in engaging with noble principles and experience meaningful images and ideas from the active intellect even in conscious states during sleep. However, this represents only the lowest level of prophethood. In comparing the views of Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali on imagination, we can identify some similarities and differences. First, role of imagination. All four philosophers recognize the significant role of imagination in human cognition and perception. They view imagination as a faculty situated between the senses and reason, involved in processing sensory images and forming mental representations. Second, imagination and reason. Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali all discuss the relationship between imagination and reason. They agree that imagination can imitate or represent rational concepts, but reason goes beyond imagination to grasp abstract and universal truths. Third, imagination in dreams. Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, and Ibn Sina emphasize the role of imagination in dreams. They suggest that during sleep, imagination becomes more active and independent from external sensory input, allowing for the manifestation of vivid and symbolic imagery. Fourth, varying level of imagination. Al-Farabi and Al-Ghazali mention variations in the strength and receptiveness of imagination among individuals. Some individuals have a stronger imaginative faculty and can receive imagery from higher sources, such as the active intellect or divine inspiration. Fifth, role in knowledge and perception. Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali discuss the role of imagination in acquiring knowledge. They suggest that imagination aids in reasoning, organizing sensory images, and generating ideas. However, Al-Ghazali cautions that imagination should not be solely relied upon, as it lacks the rational aspect of reason and may lead to errors in knowledge. Sixth, soul and imagination. Al-Kindi, Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali all link the functioning of imagination to the states of the soul. They argue that a purified and prepared soul is more receptive to higher forms of imagination, while a preoccupied or unhealthy soul may hinder the clarity and accuracy of imaginative perception. Seventh, prophetic imagination. Al-Ghazali introduces the concept of prophetic imagination, suggesting that individuals with a strong and receptive imaginative faculty can experience meaningful visions and ideas even in waking states. However, this represents only the lowest level of prophethood according to Al-Ghazali's perspective. While there are similarities in their views, it's important to note that each philosopher presents their unique insights and interpretation of imagination based on their broader philosophical frameworks and contexts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.